Hello, and welcome to Nothing Ever Happens in Canada, but we know this is simply not true. This is a Canadian podcast about the myths, legends, and just good old stories Canada has to tell. I'm Canadian Girl. Thanks for joining me today. How's everybody doing? Do you have any big plans for this summer? Have you been on any awesome trips? I'd love to hear about them. We're off to Prince Edward Island, Canada's smallest province, to look at a case that started back in 2014 when a food terrorist struck a small sleepy farm community known as Summerside, attacking one farm in particular. Bring your detective hats, old farm clothes, and those metal detectors if you brought them. We're off to investigate what in the PEI Potatoes is going on in the tiny island known affectionately as the Garden in the Gulf. As we head over to this tiny little gem on Canada's east coast, let me tell you a little bit about her. As we cross the world's largest bridge over ice-covered water, that's right, it's 12.9 kilometers or 8 miles long from New Brunswick to PEI, and it takes about 10 minutes to cross, so I should have just enough time to tell you some facts. Prince Edward Island is one of 3 maritime provinces here in Canada. As I mentioned before, she is the smallest province in Canada, but the most population dense due to her size. In the world, she is the 104th largest island, and in Canada, she is 23rd. Historically, she is known to be one of the older communities in Canada, which brings many tourists each year. Known as being the birthplace of Confederation in Canada, a meeting was held in Charlottetown in 1864 that put the plan in motion. It's also known for relaxation, peace, its famous red beaches, rocks. The fishing industry is huge for the island, and the most famous person from the island isn't even a real person at all. She's a character in a book known as Anne of Green Gables. Another popular destination is known as the Singing Sands. The beach sand literally makes noises under your feet as you walk across it. PEI is located in the Gulf of the St. Lawrence, west of Cape Breton Island, north of Nova Scotia, and east of New Brunswick. But we're here today to look into the world-famous potatoes from the island. With over 200 years growing experience, the island provides 25% of Canada's potatoes, and hands down is the island's largest commercial crop. Growing potatoes has been a way of life since the 1700s. Many farmers on the island farm the same land that their father did, their grandfather did, and so on. Farms and potato farming secrets have been passed down from generation to generation, leading to the outstanding quality potatoes that are known to come from the island today. There is roughly 180 potato growers on the island. That's 86,000 acres a year. 96% of the farms are family-operated businesses. Residents on the island are all connected to a potato farmer one way or another, either through relation, work, friends, or simply neighbors. Prince Edward Island has ideal conditions to grow their beloved crop. The famous red soil is iron-rich, which the potatoes love, and of course, the warm summers. The island also provides a distinct advantage for farmers since it's nestled in the Gulf of the St. Lawrence. It's protected against airborne diseases as well as insect ones. Another advantage for the farming community is that it's close to the ocean for transportation. The world-famous potatoes hold many records for taste and quality both nationally and internationally. There are over 100 varieties of PEI potatoes that are shipped to over 20 countries all over the world. The PEI potato industry is worth over $1 billion annually, making Prince Edward Island, not surprisingly, the #1 potato producing and exporting province in Canada. Now let's look a little closer at this prized potato industry. The PEI Potato Board was formed in 1920s, then was revamped in the 1950s, finally again in 1990 under the Natural Products Marketing Act. Today, the board is made up of 12 directors who are all active potato growers. They are elected by their peers and are only allowed to serve 2 times in a row. Each term is 3 years. Every shipment is tracked by the potato board. All movements on the island right until it leaves are fully monitored and inspected to ensure only the highest quality potatoes will be leaving the island. The potato farmers of PEI also own and operate the Fox Island Elite Seed Farm. It was established in 1962. It is dedicated to producing high-quality seeds, monitoring plant health, and eradicating disease. There are 7 classes that seeds can be classified in. All farmers' fields are inspected by trained Agriculture Canada personnel throughout the growing season. This is key to maintaining the world-famous PEI potatoes, the top quality that we all know today. So where do these seeds come from? Here's how they do it. 60% of the crop that's produced goes to make French fries, chips, and other potato products. 30% goes to the retail markets across Canada, the US, and around the world. The 10% that's left is seeds for next year's crop to make sure the famous spuds continue. Now, since we're almost across this bridge, some fun potato facts. The famous French fries, known as Cavendish, their production line can be found in New Annan, and the other popular McCain French fries can be found in Florenceville. More of a chip kind of person? The famous Frito-Lay's plant can be found in Summerside. There is a Canadian Potato Museum, of course, in the town of O'Leary. Admission is $9, and it claims to be one of the top 11 food museums in the world. Inside, it holds the world's largest potato, along with a collection of other interesting spuds of all shapes and sizes, antique farm equipment, and a very delicious restaurant serving all things potato-inspired. Some popular PEI potato recipes? There is the PEI Potato Martini, nachos, chocolate cake, scones, pancakes. There's also an apple bacon potato pie, and a gluten-free PEI potato lasagna, just to name a few. Every serving of PEI potatoes contains 45% of the recommended daily intake of vitamin C. And finally, which we're right in time for, there's a PEI Potato Blossom Festival that is held in mid-July on Main Street in O'Leary, where you can find the museum. But we're not here for the festival, though it sure sounds like it would be a great time. Now that we're across that bridge, let's head over to Summerside, PEI, where our story starts as we look at an unsolved crime in a small farming town that threatened not only the potato farming industry of the whole island, but also the reputation of these world-famous spuds. We head towards a local farm that has been run in the community of Summerside, Prince Edward Island since 1783. The Linkletter Farms is a top-producing family-run business to this day. Let me take you back to Thursday, October 2nd, 2014. All things were running as they normally do. The potatoes come in from the field, they are processed, sorted, and shipped out to their next destination. One of these destinations was the Cavendish farm plant. Suddenly, production slammed to a halt in the factory. Workers had discovered a sewing needle in one of the potatoes. Remember how I said everything was monitored when it came to shipping these potatoes? I was not kidding. The potato with the pin was immediately traced back to the Linkletter Farms. And with a small population of only 15,000 people, the word spread fast around the Summerside community. And of course, the whole island knew not long after that. The Linkletter Farms' reputation as a top PEI potato producer was in jeopardy. In the coming months, several more Linkletter potatoes would turn up with needles inside them. The scary part this time, these tampered potatoes had actually made it off the island to other Atlantic provinces, something the province had prided itself on, with all their monitoring and inspecting of shipments across the island, at some point had actually failed. The Linkletter Farm was a very well-known business in town, and most folks often made the comment they didn't know who would do this to the family. They were all so well-liked. The gossip around town was that an unhappy employee did it. Teenagers up to no good And a few people pointed their fingers at local environmentalists that were always fighting with the farmers about their deep water irrigation wells. The hardest part about this whole case is that anyone can walk into a field and stick a small pin into a potato or potatoes and leave pretty much undetected. This made the RCMP's pool of suspects very large. A place they did start, the local sewing shop, known as Pins and Needles on Water Street. The owner knew they'd be there soon enough when she heard that sewing needles had been found in the potatoes. They asked their questions and left. She was not their potato caper, as the newspapers would refer to the menace at large. The Linkletter Farms immediately recalled 800,000 pounds of potatoes, trying to stop any more from getting out into the public and to get to the bottom of what in the PEI Potatoes was going on. 14 tractor trailer loads of French fries were destroyed as a precaution as well. From October to November, 10 needles, or even sometimes small nails, on top of those already at the Cavendish Farms plant had been found. They were all sent to the lab for forensic testing. Over 12 cases in total were investigated across 4 Canadian provinces: Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, and PEI. A $500 reward was put up to stop the madness. Canada was in fear of what was lurking in their potatoes and wanted the spud thugs stopped once and for all. Sadly, the reward was never claimed and has since expired. Potato farmer Alex D. is quoted as saying to The Guardian on June 30th, 2015, "The people doing this are cowards, lower than snakes wearing snowshoes." If that isn't the best Canadian quote you've ever heard, I don't know what is. Thankfully, in all instances, the pins were found before being consumed, so no one was truly hurt by the food terrorists. The last potato with a pin found in it was in the spring of 2015. It was believed to have been in a bag that was kept in storage, but purchased from the 2014 year when the serial spud thug was at his worst. It seems since then, he or she has been spooked back into hiding. No other reports have surfaced since that horrible autumn of the potato terrorist. In order to maintain their world-class status and consumer confidence, Prince Edward Island farmers struck back against the spud thug hard. Metal detectors were installed on farms, production lines, and shipping facilities across the province. The PEI potato farmers were not going to be terrorized by the culprit anymore. They literally took their own pin and popped that spud thug's idea back to where it came from. The government provided grants to help the farmers establish the metal detectors on their farm. Farms also began putting security cameras out to monitor their fields. As of 2015, 40 of the 250 potato farms, facilities, and shipping centers had installed metal detectors. Adding this to the world-famous potatoes also makes them the world's safest now too. One farmer says he put a system in worth over $600,000 to protect his crop. There is even a potato processing plant known as the PEI Potato Solutions that caters to about 15 families, including Cavendish Farms, and in 2008 was installing a $1.1 million chemical imaging machine that looks for foreign objects and defects in the potatoes. It is the first machine of its kind in North America, right here in Canada on the littlest province. There is a similar machine out there, but a potato must be peeled. This machine does not need it to be. Before all this, the PEI potato farmers' biggest fear was, any guesses? A golf ball. Getting caught up in their machines, especially the French fry cutting machines, that would really ruin their day. Remember the 800,000 pounds of recalled potatoes? Police spent days with metal detectors going over all the returned potatoes and in the end found 3 more pins. The RCMP say that their investigation indicated that the pins were deliberately put in the potatoes, though they had no suspect at the time. If you know anything about this terrorizing spud thug, please call the RCMP at 902-436-9300. Linkletter Farms installed detectors at multiple locations on the farm after the incident. The Linkletter Farms owner would tell the Guardian newspaper he felt like a deer in headlights when the whole thing happened. Remarkably, there was no real loss to the $1 million a year potato business on the island. Thanks to their quick action against the attack, they did spend about $10 million installing metal detectors across the province, a move that paid off. Nowadays, many potato buyers actually require metal detecting to be done before they will actually purchase the crop. The PEI Potato Board considered filing a complaint against the Halifax Regional Police regarding the way the department handled the investigation. They had issue with reports that were released by police, in particular, a potato with a pin that was purchased at a Giant Tiger store in Nova Scotia was stated as being from PEI, but in fact, when the investigation was done, it was determined that the potato was not from PEI, and the metal object was found on a plate of food, not the potato itself. This was just one of the many falsely reported incidents like this, as people were on high alert when it came to their potatoes. In the end, the board chose not to file their suits. They knew the courts would side with the police, saying they acted in the best interest of the public. The positive from all this? PEI has raised the bar for food safety standards immensely. For now, the island is just happy that the spud thug is gone, so now they can go back to the relaxing, peaceful potato farming. Well, it's time to head back across that Confederation Bridge again, and you know it takes a few minutes. So let's try and figure this out. So who do you think is responsible? An angry environmentalist? Teens up to no good? Why did they just stop? And why did they only go after one farm? For that reason there, I lean towards an angry employee. Because the potatoes attacked were only found to be from one farm, that just makes the most sense to me. And why they just stopped? Well, if you saw metal detectors being put in the place where you were committing this act, I think you would stop too. Or maybe they felt satisfied with the simple embarrassment that Linkletter Farms went through with the whole ordeal. And if they were an employee, they may have had a front row seat to all the action, knowing full well they'd be caught if they continued. We're just about at the end of this bridge now. It's hard to say what goes through the mind of someone who would so carelessly tamper with someone else's food, simply as what seems to be a selfish act of anger to appease oneself. What do you think? What in the PEI Potatoes is going on this tiny island? I'd love to know your thoughts. Thanks for joining me on this true crime adventure. I'm Canadian Girl. Until next time, my friends.
This podcast is a part of Straight Up Strange Productions. Discover more shows like this one at straightupstrange.com.
Want to help support the show? You can do that in 3 simple ways. The first one, you can leave us a shiny 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. This small gesture means so much to this podcast as it allows us to move around on the podcast charts and meet more awesome listeners like you. The second, you can stop by our souvenir shop and pick up a souvenir from one of our great adventures and take it on your very own. There's t-shirts, water bottles, notebooks, and so much more. Do head over to our souvenir shop today and grab some adventure gear. And finally, the third way you can help support the show is by donation. We have a fancy PayPal button that can be found on the top right of our webpage. The button allows you the option to donate as much as you want, whenever you want. All donations will be used for the channel by buying new books for research, paying for the podcast website, and upgrading equipment. All 3 links to help support the show, of course, can be found in the show notes below. I thank you all so much for your support of the show. It means the world to me.